This man didn't just change the game, he built it. He's not just a skater, he's a cultural architect. Tony frickin' Hawk. Would you rather be financially rich or famous?
Yeah, I definitely could do without the fame.
You think it would be over 100 million or under 100 million? What it is, Brad Lea back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs, and today I got a straight up legend. This man didn't just change the game, he built it. He's not just a skater, he's a cultural architect. From launching into the mainstream with the first ever 900 at the X Games, to building a multi-billion-dollar video game franchise, to creating a foundation that literally builds skate parks for kids who have nothing. This dude's gone from sleeping in a van on tour to owning the damn highway. He's one of the most recognized names in sports and business. And if you think Tony Hawk is just a guy who rides a skateboard, buckle up, because the man I'm about to bring on is a father, a founder, a philanthropist, and still shreds harder than dudes half his age. So without further ado, the Birdman himself, Tony frickin' Hawk. What's up, buddy?
Thanks, Brad. How are you?
Man, I'm outstanding, especially now that you're here. Dude, I've been watching
Me too. Thank you.
I've been watching you for a long time, man. It's an honor to have you on the show. I want to pick your brain. This podcast mainly, the audience is called the Bomb Squad. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people trying to, find financial freedom. So we generally keep it around there. But I want to ask, when you landed the 999, you literally shifted the global perception of skateboarding in one moment. What mental conversation were you having with yourself midair during those attempts?
Oh, wow. Well, I certainly didn't think it would resonate that far when I was doing it. It was really just a quest that I had for about 10 years up to that point. And I had done this first 720 in 1985. And then, of course, with the progress of spinning, I thought, okay, well, what's another half turn? But that became very problematic through the years. And I got hurt a bunch of times trying it. I had kind of all but given up at that point on it. And so when I was trying it there, it was spontaneous. It was more in the beginning for show because it was the best trick event. I already done my best trick. So I didn't really have anywhere to go from there except to try this trick that I had never done. And then at some point I kind of figured out the secret. It's hard. It's a nuanced thing, but I figured out the way to shift my weight midair. And when I first tried to land it that night, I fell the same way I did when I broke my rib, but I didn't break my rib. And that was the aha moment. So when you're asking me what was going through my mind, in that moment, it was like, I hope I don't get hurt again. And then once I reached that point where I didn't, and I knew the technique to change my landing balance, it was like, oh, this is going to happen. So for me, it was more like, yeah, I don't know what it was sort of like a checklist, almost like a takeoff checklist for a rocket or an airplane or something. It was like snap, check, speed, check, spin, check. And it was like, all right, all systems go. Let's try to land this thing. And then when I landed it, it was more of a relief.
I bet. Hey, so did you think in your head that skateboarding was going to take you as far as it's taken you?
Never. Not in the least. It was the furthest thing from cool that you could do when I was a kid. I mean, truly, I used to hide my skateboard in junior high and high school before class because ultimately I would get bullied for having it on campus, or I would get stolen, or I'd get thrown in the trash can, like all the stupid 80s cliches. I was living that life because skateboarding was considered a toy. So it was almost like you're still playing with yo-yos. Like, what are you doing? And so when I got to have some success out of high school, it all felt surreal, and it definitely felt like it was going to be short-lived.
So what would you say to people that, like, you always hear these cliches, like, man, you have to see it to achieve it. You have to believe it first. And you're saying you didn't ever see any of this. So how do you think it just unfolded?
I just wanted to keep getting better at skating. That was my motivation. That was my driving force always. If I learned a new trick, I wanted to get to the next stage, just like 720 to 900, or throw a varial into it, throw whatever it is. I wanted to keep trying, and so I did well in competition, but that wasn't the motivation. And I think that because I never, I mean, really, it's as simple as I just never gave up on it. I was going to do it regardless if it was my career or not. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
if I had to make ends meet, which I did eventually, I had to find odd jobs. I was editing videos. I was a consultant on some Hollywood stuff because in my mid 20s, I was too old to be the skater featured. So, but all along I was just skating because it's what provided me the most joy. And so I don't have a secret in terms of making it, except that I was relentless and determined, and I was going to do it against all odds because of what it brought to me personally.
Now, when you say do it, you mean become a kick-ass, top-notch skater, or make money doing it?
No, skate. That's it. That was it. That was the priority. Skate.
How were you planning on making money?
Well, like I said, I made some good money right outside of high school. When I was a senior, actually, I bought a house, which was a challenge to stay focused on schoolwork when you have your own place as a senior. But I managed to finish high school, and then I had a few years of pretty amazing success with the Bones Brigade team, the 80s, the Back to the Future, the skate craze was happening in the late 80s, and then around 1991, everything started falling off. Sales were down. My royalty checks were getting cut in half every month. I found myself with 2 mortgages, a child on the way, and not a lot of future options. So what did I do? I had some skill sets. I knew how to edit video. I had a really basic editing system, but it was enough to get some random jobs. Like I said, I was a consultant on a couple of Hollywood shoots where, for instance, there was a Mountain Dew commercial and they wanted this kid to fly through the frame and they needed a ramp. They needed someone to tell them what angle would work. And so I went to LA to be the stand-in for this kid and build the ramp. And I mean, it was just like whatever I could do to pay the rent. And I ended up doing some rollerblade shows. So, rollerblading was huge in the early 90s. And I was the guest skateboarder at the rollerblade shows. So it was like Team Rollerblade and Tony Hawk on a skateboard. And honestly, that got me through a really tough year in terms of finances.
When did you ever hit the big one? What was the first one where it's like, dude, I'm rich?
Oh, wow. Well, I definitely thought that in the 80s, even though all of my income was 1099 and I wasn't really saving for taxes. So I was getting hit with a huge tax bill at the end of the year. I got pretty creative with write-offs and things like that. But I would say that when our video game was released, when those royalty checks started coming in, that's when everything changed. That's when I stopped worrying about making ends meet.
And if you had to start over and you were just a dude with a business idea, what are some principles that you've learned through whatever your experiences have been that you would apply to whatever you're doing? What are some 3 rules or things to think about to maybe help someone push through some challenge?
1, keep control of your brand. In terms of, if you have something that has some success that you created that you're very passionate about, as soon as someone doesn't if someone is going to, say you're going to partner with someone, or you're selling a majority share and someone else has the final decision in the creative of whatever you're doing, you're going to see it change completely and into something you don't want, or into something you never imagined. And if you had the exit and you don't care, then that's one thing. But if you really are passionate about that brand, make sure to keep control of it. And that's what I did, starting with the video game. when I signed my video game contract, everything had to have my final approval because it was literally my name on the game. And that was hard to fight for at the time. But because of the success of that, it got easier to fight for in future projects and future partnerships because they trusted my instinct. I would say authenticity. I mean, I still walk the walk. I'm still skating. You know, I'm super old, yes, but I still enjoy it. I'm still pretty good at it. And so that feels like I can justify all these things that I do, especially when they surround skateboarding, because it's not like I gave up on it.
How did you know to keep that control? A lot of times when, especially being green or new, you wouldn't know to keep that control. Did you have advisors, or you just felt
Oh no, I learned the hard way because I gave up control in so many ways, especially through the 80s where people were, I didn't realize that I was just signing my rights away, and people were making products with my name on it that were super cheesy. And at some point I complained to one of the licenses, and I said, look, this is terrible. This is not something that I would have approved. You can't do this. And they said, well, actually we can. I mean, that it was that blunt. It was like, no, you signed it away. And I'll never forget, as I was talking to this guy who ran the company, he had a shelf behind him with a bunch of random stuff, kind of like this. And this is true. There was a roll of toilet paper that said Tony Hawk gear on it. And I was like, what is that? You have to explain that. And he said, oh, well, one of our retailers, you know, they they were wondering about the quality of some of the products, and they finally said, well, you know what, even if you just put his name on toilet paper, it'll sell. And so we made that for them as a joke. But he thought I would be amused by that, and it was just deeply offensive to me, and also a huge red flag, because they just didn't care about the quality of whatever they're putting my name on it. And that was the first time I ever found a lawyer to get out of a contract. And I didn't really have the means back then, but I had to, because that was just humiliating.
So you were able to get out of it?
I had to pay, but I got out of it.
So what did it feel like, or what are some lessons you learned from going to an absolute unknown or unrecognizable to the exact opposite, where you're probably recognized everywhere you go?
It's strange, because I never got into this to be rich or famous. So when I had some semblance of that, I didn't know what to do with it. You know, it felt very foreign to me. And I kind of got lost in it. I got lost in the celebrity and all that for a while, because it felt like, well, this is what is expected of me. You know, suddenly I'm supposed to go to the hot restaurant, or go to the movie premieres and everything else. And at some point, I realized that was just vapid, and it wasn't fun. And I was, you know, and also I wasn't prioritizing time with my kids and whatever else. And then, I figured it out a little late, but I did figure it out. And, now I just try to keep a healthy balance, but it is super strange. I mean, to be a recognizable figure, especially when I'm a dad, I'm a granddad now, you know, I'm just going to the coffee shop, just doing my thing. But at the same time, obviously there's perks to that. Like I can usually get a restaurant reservation.
I was going to ask you, did you ever regret, or not regret, I would say that'd be probably impossible, but would you rather be financially rich, wealthy, or famous?
Oh, wow. I could definitely, if I were just financially comfortable, I definitely could do without the fame.
So that's why I'm always curious about, because when I grew up,
I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to say woe is me. There is, you know, it's fun. Like, and also, I don't think I'm not a polarizing figure or anything. So usually I get very friendly interactions, and people are excited. So I am super thankful for that. And that is so enjoyable to bring people some joy like that. But to be in my position, sometimes you got to put yourself out there a little more than you want to, especially to make a living. Because nowadays, all campaigns, endorsements, sponsorships are very short lived. It's not like it was. It used to be you signed a 3 or a 5 year contract with a big company, and that was the bread and butter. And now the campaigns and the promotions last only a couple months, and it's all social media based. And I'm here for it. I still enjoy it, but it's very flighty.
Do you see skateboarders still getting, famous now, or is that kind of past?
No. Especially with the inclusion of skateboarding in the Olympics. There's a girl, Raíssa Leal from Brazil. She is arguably the #1 sports star in Brazil. Like right behind the top soccer dudes.
All from skateboarding.
She's a skateboarder. She just won the last event. She's amazing.
Wow. So what's something about fame that sucks that you have to deal with that if you wish you wouldn't have to deal with?
You're just on display everywhere all the time, and everyone's got a camera, phone pointing it at you. I'm not doing anything untoward, but that is weird. Every once in a while I just catch someone taking a photo or shooting video of me when I'm just doing something totally normal.
So when someone comes up to you and says, "Hey man, you look just like Tony Hawk,"
every day.
Does that bug you?
No, not at all. No. It's weird now because I shared so many of those interactions that many people approach me and say it in jest, but many others say it for real. Like yesterday, I was in New York yesterday, and a guy at a coffee shop said it, and I didn't know if he was joking. You know what I mean? And I don't really know how to react in that sense. And then his friend said, "Yeah, dude, that's him." And he's like, "Oh, you really are?" And I said, "Yep. Oh, yeah, that's me." Yeah. So still happens all the time. I kind of stopped sharing the interactions because people thought I was making it up. But it's all true.
Have you ever played it off like, a lot of people say that, but you don't let on?
Well, and that's the thing. So there is, So here's what happens is usually people will say, "Hey, did anybody ever tell you that you look like Tony Hawk?" And I say, "Yes," or "Yes, you're the first today." And then half the time, that's the end of the conversation. And it's like, "Oh yeah, that's crazy that you look like him." And it drives my daughter insane because she's like, "Why didn't you tell him?" Because he didn't ask.
That's funny. Wait, what was the most broke you've ever been? And like, how did you, like, in my mind, I'm thinking, because if you're skateboarding, you're doing it for passion. Like you said earlier, you weren't really trying to make money with it. You just loved it and wanted to do it. At what point did you realize, man, I can just keep doing this and turn it into money?
Well, I would say there's two parts to that. I'd say the most challenging financial times were probably like 91 to 94 ish, because I was still trying to make my way in skating. I was still trying to make a living as a pro skater, but there were very few options. And like I said, I had a second mortgage. I could barely afford it. I actually had to refinance my house to change the payments. At one point I was making payments on a water bill, because I couldn't afford the actual water bill for the property I had. I was eating Taco Bell, top ramen, peanut butter jelly sandwiches almost exclusively for a couple of years. And honestly, I don't, it sounds, yes, it was challenging, but I still got to skate. So as far as I'm concerned, I was living the dream. Like, I don't look back on those times and just think like, "Oh man, I can't believe I made it out." It was just more like, that's what I had to do because I was committed to skateboarding.
So you just got to be committed, whatever you're doing.
I think so. Of course there's a point where it can become untenable, where the costs outweigh the income. Um, in my case, I ended up selling that house because I was underwater in the payments, and for not as much as I think it was worth, but it got me away from it, and that's what I needed. I moved into the duplex that I bought when I was still in high school, and I just kind of hunkered down, cut out expenses, and like I said, ate on a very meager budget and made it work. Um,
What
all
about
in the quest of starting a skate brand.
what about injuries? Like you must have suffered a ton of injuries. How did you just keep like not caring that you might break your damn back?
I think early on in skateboarding, I mean, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when that you're probably going to get hurt if you're pursuing a life in skateboarding. And that never deterred me. I mean, if anything, I took the injuries as lessons of what not to do going forward. And I just endured the healing time. That's not to say that my body hasn't suffered, and now that I'm old, like my neck is super stiff, and my I can't get the same I can't get the same flexibility with my legs because I broke my leg not actually just a few years ago, but I think it was the very first time I got hurt. I knocked out my front teeth. I got a concussion. I fractured a finger, and when I came to, my first thought was, "Oh my God, what have I done?" My first thought was, "I've got to learn how to do that trick properly." And that really, I think that was a defining moment in my career, because it was just like I was willing to, endure broken bones and knee surgeries and whatever else, plenty of lacerations, um, because nothing compared to skating, and up to now, even I'm able to heal.
Man, I wish I could find something that I love that much. A lot of people always ask me, what are your hobbies? And I'm like, dude, I don't have any. Like I never got into skateboarding because of the danger. I got on one a couple times. I lived on a hill. So as soon as I mean, there was no doing it slow. It was
Honestly, I've heard that story over and over, especially with the hill. People say like, "Oh, I lived on the hill," or "My driveway was steep, and the first time I skated, I got speed wobbles, and then that was the end of it."
Yeah, so I just like didn't get into that. Then I picked up BMX and started learning
That's dangerous.
bunny hops and tabletops. And as soon as I bit it one time and the handlebar went through my lip, I stopped that. And it's like
Yeah.
I always wonder like how do people that get really good at something just get past that? But I think it's just the love of the game and an absence of fear, which that applies to
I wouldn't.
businesses.
I disagree with the absence of fear. It's definitely a calculated risk approach. When I try something new, I'm not just leaving caution to the wind. Like I try something with the sense that I have all the pieces to the puzzle. I've done this type of spin. I've done this type of maneuver. I've landed in the same sort of direction, and all I have to do is put all those pieces together. Sure, there's sometimes when it's the great unknown, and if you're going to try it, chances are it could be dicey. But um, I've never just tried something uh, without any. I've never just tried something and not thought of the consequences.
So you factored it in. You just had a little more
Absolutely,
confidence.
yeah. I mean, and especially now, like I'm way older, so I try to stay more low impact. I don't try the super risky moves anymore, and I've come to a good place in my skating and in my uh, in my resolve that I don't mind letting those like big spin maneuvers go now.
How much money did you blow before you realized that you better start investing? Like when did you mature financially? Or have you?
Oh, I have for sure. Yeah. Um, I think my dad instilled that in me. I mean, I'm so thankful that he encouraged me to buy real estate when I first started making money, even though I was only 17 and then eventually 18, but he co-signed on the property that I bought. But to have that place was really my kind of safety net when things went south. And so I think it was because I had that experience that taught me, save money, put it away, invest it. I mean, that was literally my first investment, was real estate. And so when I got the good fortune of making money again, I knew to save it and to invest it, and not just go on crazy trips to Hawaii with all my bros.
Do you still splurge a little?
Sure. Yeah. But I'm in a different place now. I can afford to. Yeah.
Well, again, a lot of people, they get money right off the bat. And I try to warn people, because it happened to me. You start making money and then you start, just raising your lifestyle, and pretty soon you're just broke at another level. And there's a lot of athletes.
Yeah. And then if the income stops, you're in big trouble.
Big trouble. And a lot of athletes do that. They get big contracts, they get millions of dollars, and then the next thing you know, they're broke. And it's like, dude, how would they go broke? Well, because they spent it and they didn't realize.
And also, that whole thing of the flex and the flaunt, that's just not me.
Never has been.
No, I mean, maybe at some point I was like, oh, I want to get that super nice car or whatever it is. But these days, that's just not in my, it's not in my approach. It's not really who I am, and I always wonder when I see that kind of stuff, like, do they really have that kind of money?
Or just blow
usually
it?
It feels like they don't.
Yeah. Well, again, a lot of them that I find that look rich aren't actually rich. It's the ones that don't look rich that are actually rich, because all their money's invested wisely.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, we, between my wife and I, we have 6 children. 5 of them are adults and out of the house, but I want to be the safety net for them. That is the goal. I want to make sure that we have enough saved that, yes, I want them all to pursue their own careers and be self-sufficient. But at some point, if anything goes south for them, they do have us as a backup.
So when you started getting into the Hollywood aspect of the fame, did you ever get invited to parties, see the underbelly of Hollywood? And if so, tell me about it.
Nothing subversive. No.
You never been to a Diddy party?
No, I wasn't on that radar. I never got to that level, I guess.
Have you ever talked to people that would verify that, man, some of the stuff you hear is true?
I don't know. I just never, I was never into the salacious tabloid life, I mean, if anything, like a TMZ crew might catch me outside of a restaurant, but that's just, I wasn't, yes, I got caught up a little bit, but it wasn't like I was just completely involved in it. And I live in San Diego. I don't live in LA. So when I would go to LA for an event, I'm usually coming home the same night.
Fly private?
No.
You don't?
No.
Well, you don't get trapped into anything.
No, let's put it this way. I would say we get to fly private maybe once a year, if that, depending on, like, if it's just some strange location and it's all of our kids, it's like, okay, let's splurge for this charter or whatever. But no.
So you're just a regular guy that happened to be very good at something and had it pay off.
I hope so. I mean, if that's the narrative, yeah.
No Diddy parties. Damn, I was hoping to get some good stories, man. I always like to talk to people that have real celebrity, because for some reason, they're invited to all these places. How many doors opened just because you're you that you never would have been in otherwise?
I tell you, I mean, all that has been probably the biggest surprise. I mean, obviously the finances are amazing and unexpected, but in terms of just being someone that would be considered to go to some event is amazing. To get these invites is like, they know like the skateboarder, that's what they want to do. Like, or did someone cancel? Like, I don't know. But I'm honored. I'm honored that my name is in the ether like that. I think the closest thing we even came to crazy celebrity events was we used to put on a big fundraiser in Beverly Hills once a year for our foundation, which used to be the Tony Hawk Foundation, is now the Skatepark Project. And we did it at this very wealthy person's house in Beverly Hills. We put our ramp, my personal ramp, in his backyard. We would have bands play. We had like Jane's Addiction, the Black Keys, and all kinds of big names. So that usually would attract a celebrity contingent, but it wasn't crazy. And usually it's because they had kids that skated.
What would you say to parents whose kids skate? Because again, I probably stunted my kid's growth. We have a signed skateboard from you. I forget where we got it, but it's some charity. And he was Tony Hawk obsessed, and I'm like, no, I don't want broken legs and broken bones. So I kind of discouraged it. What would you say to parents whose kids just really into it?
I think that what they don't realize is that it's teaching them great life skills. About the value of not giving up, determination, about finding their own way to solve problems, doing something in their own style while still being part of a community. I mean, it just teaches you so much about your approach to life. It really is the reason that I'm successful in other aspects of life, is because of the discipline that I learned from skateboarding. And so I just feel like those things tend to get lost in, oh wait, it's too dangerous. It really is only as dangerous as you make it, right? And yes, some kids they're daredevils beyond their skill level, and that can get scary. But for the most part, they just love the community of it. And so I hope you don't deny them of that.
Well, there's only like a handful of famous skateboarders, right? Like
sure, but there is a huge population of people that grew up skating, and they credit that for any other success they had in life. I mean, I speak from experience. I just came back from New York. We had a Bones Brigade reunion. Bones Brigade was the team that I was part of in the 80s. It was considered probably one of the most innovative teams of skateboarding. And we had a meet and greet with a bunch of people that grew up skating, and they're all hugely successful because they all paid to come do this thing in New York. But they, and most of them don't skate anymore, and most of them they're all kind of our age, but they credit that time in their life as being the most formative because they skated.
See, I stunted their growth. Didn't even realize it.
I disagree.
I was worried about their safety. I thought they were going to get a snapped ankle, broken leg, busted elbow.
That can happen too, but how they deal with it, I don't want to use a cliche like it builds character, but it definitely shows that you're willing to push through adversity.
Yeah, I get parents that'll like, dude, you hover your kids too much. You're too worried. And I say, hey, have your kids ever broken a bone? They're like, well, sure. And I'm like, mine haven't. Mine have not.
Yeah, but there can be yes, and there can be a backlash to that as well once they become self-aware. So
100%.
That's all I'm saying. I am not in no way am I the oracle of parenting, but I do feel like you got to give them some freedom.
Do you think timing had anything to do with your success? Like if you were 15 years old today, do you think you could, go out there and hit the same type of bonanza?
I don't know. I feel like I would be intrigued by it, and yeah, maybe I wouldn't experience the same level of success, but I feel like it spoke to me in so many ways, and it still does. And like when I first went to the skate park, I was 10 years old. There was this energy, there was this vibe. People were flying out of swimming pools. There was a type of music I had never heard, and it was way more exciting than anything I heard on the radio at that point in my life. And so I don't know. I don't know if I would, it wouldn't have, it would have been more available if I had grown up in this era, because we're talking about skateboarding now, and skateboarding's in the Olympics, and there's skate parks everywhere. But at that time, skating was very underground. So I can't, there's no way I could answer that definitively, but I am very thankful for the timing that I grew up in. I endured the lowest of lows with skateboarding's popularity and the attitude towards it. So yes, it was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
What about drugs?
Yeah, it was, I think it was more that I saw my peers, some got caught up in drugs, and I saw them not only lose their motivation, but I saw them lose their skills. And my skating and my performances were paramount to everything else. I mean, if you can call that pride or stubbornness or whatever, but that was always the priority. That was always the directive, was to skate the best I could. And if something was going to prevent me from that, it was off the table. And that's how I stayed away. That's how I, kind of escaped all that.
I mean, did you ever smoke weed or anything?
I tried, and then it affected my skating, and so it didn't have high? The relaxation. It didn't have the effects that people that people experience. I'm not saying it's a bad thing necessarily. Plenty of my friends obviously did that growing up, and some turned okay, some went down a darker path. But that's not my vibe. It doesn't really work for me.
Yeah. Well, again, dude, I think, I don't know how, but like, it seems like you had some good parenting, some, built-in focus and intuition just to make the right moves. What are you passionate about now? What's got your attention today?
Well, my skate brand Birdhouse, we have a team that I am super excited about. We've got some new talent. We have Tom Shar, who is arguably the best ramp skater in the world and got second place in the Paris Olympics. And we've got Grayson Fletcher, who's like one of the most hardcore, crazy skaters and always has highlights. And we've got Lizzie Armanto, we've got Reese Nelson, women. We've got a new girl, Caitlin. Sorry, I'm trying to go through the team roster. Lily Erickson from Hawaii. I just, we have some legendary skaters like Jaws and Sean Hale. And so that's as much as difficult as it is to do a skate brand now, because the industry is so diluted. It is my passion. And even if it's not the most successful thing, I'm still super fired up about it. Beyond that, our foundation, the Skatepark Project, we are helping to fund public skate parks in underserved areas. We've been doing it 23 years now, and I feel like we've really found a stride and the best ways to be effective. We've helped to fund over 900 skate parks across the U.S. And I mean, if you're talking about my proudest work, is definitely that. Beyond the selfish aspect of getting more places to skate.
I mean, is it also like a business venture? Like you own the property, it's a real estate play as well?
No,
or
not at all. No, it's nonprofit. No,
wow.
I mean, we donate funding to projects. We give them the resources to get them built properly. We try to help in the design so that it appeals to all styles of skating and all skill levels. But it is up to the communities, the cities, to find the space. And usually it's up to them to find most of the funding. But when we do give funding, our endorsement goes a long way. And usually it ends up attracting more donors and usually more attention.
Where can the Bomb Squad donate to your foundation?
Skatepark.org.
Skatepark.org. And what's the like mindset behind it? Meaning, you're going to get more kids out of trouble into skating?
Yeah, I think it's more to give them a sense of belonging and a place to find like-minded people, a place to share ideas. I mean, honestly, the reason I started is because I grew up near one of the last skate parks that was open in the US in the 80s. And it was never lost on me how lucky I was to have that place. And yeah, not just for training grounds, but because that's where I found my lifelong friends. That's where I felt like I belonged. And I identify with everyone. And so when I had this success and a chance to have a voice in matters like that, that was my best option, was to actually provide skate parks to kids who feel disenfranchised, who don't feel like the city is encouraging them. You know, if anything, the city is telling them can't skate on the street, can't skate in this parking lot, can't skate at the mall. And it's like, but they found something that speaks to them. And I think it's a healthy activity. And you're discouraging them from doing something that could change their life. So the best thing that we can do is provide a facility for them. And that's what we've been doing. I mean, that's the work that gets me fired up. I think if you're looking at just in terms of my businesses, probably the next thing that I'm most excited about is our new video game that'll be coming out in July. In fact, we're doing a big launch on Thursday where we're having a party. We've got bands playing from the game. It's going to be live streamed, and we're announcing all the details of the game. So that's definitely at the top of my mind right now.
Well, if we can get together as the bomb squad and throw a little finances his way, it goes to a killer cause. Because again, I mean, to me, you know, you get a kid, you know, a direction and they run with it. You never know how that ripple effect is going to apply. So bomb squad, get together if you can. Go check out skatepark.org, give a little. You can obviously donate, you know, $5 or $5 million. Or even land. Sometimes they might need land to put the park in or on, correct?
We need advocates of all kinds. So absolutely. But I appreciate you putting it out there.
Absolutely. Again, I always ask, what can the bomb squad do for you? So I'm just kind of trying to figure out, you know, what we could do to give back and help kids. I think that's, I mean, that's my passion. I like to help, you know, abused kids. You know, one time I got a DUI and I had to go do some community service, and my job was to like read this microfilm and then put it in the right order. So I had to read a little bit about what was going on with this case, and you would be amazed how many kids like were in situations that it's just like, number one, heartbreaking, but number two, it's just amazing how parents, these kids were like getting abused a lot of times by parents and people that were related to them, and it was like unbelievable.
The ones that they're supposed to trust.
The ones they're supposed to trust, and I'm talking about little kids, like they have no defenses.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, it's terrible.
It is.
But whatever we can do to help, and you know, I feel like if anything, we're also providing possibly an escape to and a safe place in a lot of ways. You know, even though it's skateboarding, yes, but a community that will support them. And you know, the idea that these parks, you know, some people think that's more niche and it's not a mainstream sport and whatever. If you go to a skate park right now, it is probably crowded with people of all race, all gender, all backgrounds, and all skill levels enjoying the same space. And I just don't, there's no other sport that you can say that about. And that's what's unique about skateboarding.
What's your favorite sport besides skating? Like, you watch UFC, you a boxing fan, hockey fan?
My kids do, so I watch it by default. But I mean, I like board sports. I grew up surfing, snowboarding too. If I were to choose any other sport besides those, probably baseball, because that's what I grew up playing as a kid. That's what I actually gave up baseball for skateboarding.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, so out of all the famous people that you met, what's the wisest thing any of them told you that you actually applied and want to pass on?
Huh.
Who said it? What'd they say?
I don't know if I got any really good sage advice from famous people. I think more people in my life that I considered mentors. Stacy Peralta was the first person of any stature in skateboarding that recognized my talents as a kid. And I was super scrawny. My style was not flowy. It was not smooth. People made fun of it, you know? And so when I found myself skateboarding. So already I'm an outcast because I skate, right? It's not cool. Then I start skating and I find my style. My style is not cool. So now I'm like uncool in the uncool world of skateboarding. And that was very isolating. And Stacy Peralta, I'll never forget, said, you know, I like your determination. I like that you are always trying to do new things, and I would like to put you on my team. And just that boost of confidence that he believed in me at all like that changed everything. I mean, that was the turning point for me, where I suddenly stopped caring about what everyone else thought or said, because I had arguably the most influential person in skateboarding believing in what I do.
Nice. Okay, last question, then I'll let you run. So when it comes to like, you know, building something brand related, especially on social media nowadays, because again, once you're known, it's a lot easier to get momentum and get in the spotlight. But if someone's trying to build a personal brand, what advice would you give?
Be unique and be flexible. Don't just get stuck in your lane. But try to stand out. I mean, I just, you know, the idea that you're following a trend, that just puts you, that's not going to set you apart. That's not going to, you're not going to stand out unless you get something completely lucky in that aspect. But I think that you got to, you know, I hate the cliche, but think outside the box. I mean, skateboarding is the most unorthodox of sports, and anyone that does it in their own way, but they're still part of this group. And so you gotta be unique. That's my best advice. And you know, especially if you're doing something like skateboarding, try new things.
Be unique and stay authentic. Get out there, you know, put yourself out there. Stop fearing the opinion of others.
Oh yeah, get out of your comfort zone. I had to do that over and over and over. I mean, like when I first started skating, I wouldn't have done an interview. I don't know what to say. I don't even know who I am, you know? And then when kids started looking up to me, so to speak, that was terrifying. Who am I to look up to? I'm just this goofy kid trying to learn skateboard tricks. You know, but at some point I kind of learned to be comfortable in my own skin, and that I do have a voice that can make a difference. And so I'm going to use that to my best abilities.
Hey, and how much, what have you ever calculated how much income you've received from skating, not including your investments that you had obviously contribute to your wealth, but just from skating, what number would you put on how much you've made in your career?
I can't, I don't know how I would say that. Let's just say that video games, by far were the best thing that ever happened to me financially.
You think,
and still to this day,
you think it would be over 100 million or under 100 million?
Wow. Under, yeah.
Well, Bomb Squad,
you read.
Go get the new game. When's your new game release?
July.
Folks, go out and try to make him even more successful. Get that game, reach in your pockets, go help the dude with his foundation. And I would assume that, you know, you guys already, you know, follow Tony. Tony, where are you on social media? What's your social media?
Tony Hawk on all the platforms.
Tony Hawk, man, I appreciate you taking the time to share with us today. And I hope everything, you know, keeps working out for you. It's not like you have any issues, but if I can ever do anything for you, let me know.
I appreciate it, Brad. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Tony. Hey, folks, as always, till next time, keep it real.